Oh man, where do I start? Hi guys. Welcome back to my channel, just me, just Tony. And in my introduction, I mentioned that I kind of transitioned. There were some things that I had experienced in the past year and a half, and this is going to be in a four-part series because it's a lot, but I'm going to try to chop it up and condense it as much as possible so you guys can really get the full scope of you know my life, right? Not too much because I don't want everybody all in my business, but just enough for you to understand and get the purpose and the reason behind what I'm explaining. Okay, so let's talk about last year. Last year, 2023. Um, was rough for me. It started off very rough. Um, Unfortunately, I lost a job, which was a very painful experience. And when I tell you it was painful, it was painful. Um, there were truths that I was not aware of. And but there's always a blessing behind losing something that you think that you don't think you'd ever lose. Um, but it was a blessing that came out of that. So rewind a bit. I am originally from Atlanta, and I have been living there my entire life, born and raised. I went to school in North Carolina, so I was away from home for a bit, but went back home um, after post college. I knew I didn't want to live there, and so I was trying to figure out where I wanted to live. And there were a number of cities that I was considering, and I had taken a trip to Maryland some time ago, and I just made the decision that's where I wanted to live, in short. And so I decided, okay, well, I need to figure out how I'm going to do this. Now, at my job, I was hoping that I was going to get a promotion and, then I could just transfer. That would be easy. No, unfortunately, I lost my job, but that was motivation for me to actually make the move to Maryland. So I got a job. When I tell you I bust my behind trying to get a job, I applied for everything that I saw that was available, and so finally I landed a job and was able to move to Maryland. Now, in between that, there were some things that I was very much so um, nervous about, very green when it came to moving. I mean, I don't think anyone was is really ever prepared to one lose a job and then two leave one state to move to another. I lost my job at the end of ah March. I lost my job at the end of March last year. I was applying for jobs, and my mentor, she's like, listen, you've been talking about moving to Maryland for the longest. You need to figure it out. You need to apply for remote jobs. You need to apply for jobs in Maryland. And so that's what I did. Um, I decided that I was going to put all of my, attention in Maryland as much as I could, because realistically, I'm like, what if I don't move? What if I don't get a job in, Maryland? I need to have a job here in Atlanta. So I applied for jobs in Atlanta. I didn't get not one. You hear me? When I tell you I didn't get not one job in Atlanta, not one. And that was a sign for me. A clarifying sign was I'm a very spiritual person, and my relationship with God is top tier. It is important to me, um, and I take it very serious. So I am just at home, trying to apply for jobs, waiting on phone screens and getting phone screens and getting second round interviews. And then I hear a voice, and this is going to scare y'all a little bit, but I hear a voice that said, buy boxes. Now, if you're anything like me and you are in tuned with the spirit and you hear and you understand, when you know the voice when you hear it. It's the voice. And I'm like, wait, what is this? And the voice just, kept getting more pronounced and louder. And I've heard that tone before in a major decision that I had to make. And I'll talk about that in another video. But I remember the tone. I remember the sternness. And short of it, I bought boxes. Now, I didn't know if it meant that I was going to be moving to another apartment in Atlanta or if I was going to be moving to Maryland. I didn't know, but I was obedient and I bought the boxes. So I got the boxes and I'm starting to label them. Didn't know what I was doing. Okay. So fast forward, I get a call from a job here in Maryland, and I got excited. I'm like, okay, so this has to be the one, right? Phone screen went well. Then I got a call to interview on site, and I'm like, oh, I'm going to Maryland. Now, I had a credit on Southwest Airlines that I had booked the flight and I canceled the flight, so they give you a credit. I used that credit to travel to Maryland. Now, I want you to also keep in mind, I was not in a financial situation to be doing any type of traveling. All the money that I had was for my household, my rent, the bills that were coming up. I didn't have any extra. And when I say no extra, I mean no extra. And so it was by the grace of God that I had that credit to fly to Maryland because otherwise I wouldn't have been able to go, period. So I got to Maryland and I get my car, which I had just enough money on my credit card to buy or rent my vehicle to pay the difference in my flight was about maybe, I would say, $40 or something like that, and then buy a meal, a $5 biggie bag from Wendy's. And I really mean that. So I went to Maryland and got my car, got in a hotel, and I'm excited. I'm like, oh man, I knew a couple people in town and I wanted to call and say, hey, I'm here, let's link up before I have this interview the next day. And there goes that voice again. Like, no, ma'am, you need to focus and, make sure that you are ready for tomorrow. So I get ready, I stay in my room and I fall asleep because, sometimes when you're excited and you're overstimulated, your energy just kind of depletes. So I'm like, let me just sleep. I fell asleep, woke up, and then I started to prepare for the next day. The next day comes and I walk into the facility and I'm like, oh yeah, this is my job. This this is my job. Absolutely. There was no guessing about it. So I get in the interview, it goes well, and now I'm on the phone calling my friends. And this is important. Um, when you're going through a transitional phase, when you're making a major decision, um, it's important that you kind of um, you keep that sacred to yourself. It's not that you don't trust anyone, but that journey is yours and you want to protect it as much as possible. It is vital that moves are made with as minimal information outgoing as much as possible. It keeps from a lot of people kind of telling you what you should and shouldn't do, where you should and shouldn't go, how to go about certain things when they themselves may not have experienced it before. Or even if they have, their journey is their journey and yours is your own. So, my purpose in not telling anyone about my travel to Maryland was to make sure that I was in the frame of mind to receive whatever it was that I was supposed to receive without hearing the noise of someone else's, opinions or thoughts. So when you're going through things, when you are navigating life, just keep that in mind. It's not to say that no one can know, because there's someone that needs to know your whereabouts when you're traveling like that. Someone needs to know your whereabouts, but keep some of that stuff for yourself so that you can make um, the best decisions for you. So, fast forward, at the end of that week, I got a phone call from the hiring manager offering me the position. And I had to be in Maryland in 2 weeks. So just think, had I not listened to that voice um, that said buy boxes, I would not have been prepared to move, because essentially that's what it was for. I started, like I said, labeling boxes. I decided one day, it was just, a random, I don't know what I'm doing. And I just put my towels and my washcloths and my sheets in one box. And then another box, I just started adding different, items in different boxes. And I didn't know, again, I had no idea what I was doing this for. God didn't tell me why. He just told me to buy the boxes. I'm obedient. So, had I not done that, me moving would have been a struggle. It kind of would have been a little chaotic, because I would not have had anything, and may not even have had the money to do anything. So um be obedient. If you are anything like me and you are a spiritual person and you know the voice and it's not going to steer you wrong, just take heed to it. Take heed to the voice and follow the directions that has been given to you, and you will reap the rewards in the outcome. In the end, you will see why. So this will end the first part of me moving. In the next video, I will talk to you about um, where I landed, and how I navigated that. So stick around for the next video.